Welcome everybody. I am wearing this t-shirt in honor of my fellowship. This is a Street of Eames t-shirt for those of you who are old enough to remember that fun 5 years of tours of mid-century and modern houses and homes that I was really fortunate to participate in. It's a long story that we don't have time for today, but that was a result of my fellowship. It was, I'd say, truly life-changing. And an extraordinary opportunity. So I think the foundation is, the fellowship is an extraordinary opportunity for everybody, and I think other participants can talk about that too. My advice to you is short and sweet, and I'm sure you'll hear this repeated from the other people on the panel, and I don't think it's going to take the full 5 minutes. I'd say your proposal should be on point. It should be beautiful because we're designers, so we like to see sort of well presented documents that should speak to who you are and be clear about what the outcome should be. So make it personal and inspirational, to actually use Claire's words. Make it beautiful and make it clear about what you're going to be doing with your time and or with the money or with both. I suggest, and this is my personal advice, that you make it about something that you care about, something that you have passion for, that relates to the profession in some way, and that is not directly related to your daily work. If it's something that you're already doing in your job, it doesn't resonate well in a proposal because we think you're already doing that. You know, if you already have a practice that's dedicated to something and you want to use the fellowship money to investigate that something, you're already doing it. So it doesn't really make sense. So make a strong argument for what it is that you want to do. Be realistic in your proposal about the scope of work, because there are limited funds. It might sound like a lot of money, but once you've given some of it to the IRS, there's less. And so if you're going to supplement it with other means of time or money, be clear that that's what you're going to do, because we can tell if what you're proposing you're going to do is completely out of line with the reality of the stipend that you'll be receiving. Also, make it more than just a request for money to go on a really fun trip. I know that really fun trips are really fun, and you might learn a lot, but it's not just about bringing a sketchbook back. I think there has to be something more intentional about it. That doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere extraordinary. You can go to Bali and study beach structures, but there has to be a purpose and intent behind that. So a compelling argument about why that is the one thing that you need to do with this funding. And we might believe you. And I really personally believe that there should be a product. I think other panelists might not agree with that, but I'd like to see, what are you going to do? What's going to be the outcome? And if I had longer to talk about it, I would explain that the outcome, that actually the Street of Eames tour that came out of my fellowship was not my proposed outcome. But I did have an original proposed outcome, and it was enough to sway the committee to award that fellowship to me, and it did profoundly change my life. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Erica.
Thank you so much, Becca. So I'm Erica Dunn, and I was a fellow in 2013 studying the human side of high performance buildings, which was doing sort of intense owner-occupant evaluations on 9 zero-energy buildings in Oregon as well as around the country. And I agree with Becca completely that it was an absolutely life-changing experience. I like to say that before the fellowship, I had a job, and after the fellowship, I had a career, which was pretty profound for me to make all the connections that I did within the sustainable design community here in Portland, and that really set me on a different trajectory, which was wonderful. In terms of my approach and advice, so the first thing I always do when I'm applying for something is to see if I can get a copy of somebody who has, what was submitted by somebody who actually won, just to understand what does a successful application look like. I happen to have had a friend who had won it the year or two before me, and so looked through his application. I'm happy to make mine available to anybody who's interested in looking at that. I think that helps kind of demystify it a little bit and make it seem not quite so scary and unapproachable. The next piece was providing detail to it. So when I was talking about which buildings I might go and study, while I had not actually talked to any of those building owners, I at least put some thought into who was I going to reach out to, what questions might I be asking, and things of course shift and change throughout the fellowship, but at least I was showing that I had already given thought to how I might approach this. I also, in each section that I was speaking to, made sure to talk about both what would this fellowship mean to the larger architectural community, as well as to me personally, because I know that the personal impact is a really important part of this fellowship. And one of the most amazing parts of this fellowship, I think, is that it really is about you as an architect, improving your skills and becoming a better architect for the rest of your life, which is wonderful. And then the kind of last piece I had is that the letters of recommendation, the people that I spoke to have write them, were people who could speak to both my ability to complete the study and do a good job at it, as well as the need for it. So getting kind of a 2-for-1 in that, so that they were sort of reiterating that, yes, this is a really important thing that would help the architectural community immensely. So I think that was important. And I also, I collaborated a lot with the Energy Trust of Oregon. I was the single recipient of the fellowship, but they helped me gain access to some of the buildings that had been part of their pilot program. And then they actually helped set up kind of a tour of presentations that I did all around the state, which is pretty amazing. And even more amazing than that is that was such a positive outcome for them that they have now instituted $50,000 zero energy fellowship program solely based on our collaboration. So it's neat to see that the Evera Bailey Fellowship has gone on to inspire other fellowships as well. So thank you. That's all I've got.
I guess that brings me on, and I would support everything that's been said prior. It's great advice. I do think if I were going to kind of take my couple minutes here to talk about something, I think that passion piece is really, really important. That as the reviewers are reviewing these applicants, they really need to know that this matters to you, that this is something that you really care about. Because the truth of the matter is you're taking this on above and beyond all your obligations, your work obligations, your life obligations. This is an additional piece to what you're already doing, and that passion will carry the day oftentimes to work on something. I too am from kind of the ancient history of this fellowship, but it was transformative for me. I used it to study nighttime in various locations, and I combined that with reaching out to people who were running light festivals in the locations that I was studying. And reached out to those individuals to kind of find out the logistics of putting on light festivals in locations that, I picked these locations specifically because they were going to be like Portland. There were light festivals that existed in the wintertime when it was going to be cold, rainy, snowy, icy. And I think that probably helped in the jury realizing that it wasn't just a vacation, because I picked some really crappy places to go in the winter. But to Becca's point, and because mine was largely travel-based, a clear agenda for those travels, and following up on Erica's comment as well, who you're meeting as part of those travels, what you're going to be specifically looking for, and a clear kind of understanding of what you want the takeaway to be. Now, you will be surprised with the things that you learn, but there should be some clear intentions about what you're bringing back as a part of that. I guess kind of my final comment on this would be that I would say the majority of this award is given as a way of enriching you as a design, a creative professional. The nice thing is you'll see that there's an incredible range of awards that are given. So I encourage everybody to apply because they're giving it to a number of different interests. That said, what I would offer up is that in addition to serving you, if there's some component of that you could make the case that your profession or your community is somehow going to be enriched by the work that you do, that makes for a stronger application. So primarily it's about enriching you, but if you can also make the case that it enriches others as a result of you engaging in this, I would say that helps to carry some weight. And with that, I will go back on mute.
So I guess that transitions to me. My name is Kwong. I was a fellow in 2016 of the Evera Bailey Fellowship. I also serve on the selection committee, so I help review the applications that come in. So to all of those of you who are listening, the first thing I want to say is that I think this fellowship is amazing. I mean, I think this is one of the best opportunities for architects in the nation. And I'm saying that coming from having spent most of my career in New York City, where I know you have, 25-year-old Pritzker Prize winning architects applying for $1,000 fellowships. Here you have an amazing opportunity to get a significant amount of money devoted to, professionals in the industry. I think it's an incredible opportunity. I really hope more and more people apply and contribute to the culture of design here in Oregon. I think it's an incredible opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the proposals that come in this year. So when I applied, and my proposal that was awarded in 2016, I used it to study material science, building materials. So it was something related to what I had been practicing as a professional architect for the last 15 years at that point. But I didn't really have time to do anything or to devote much of it outside of my professional practice, As you know, many of you know, in the architecture profession, you're at the mercy and the whims of other outside forces, right? So you're always kind of doing what the project entails, but you don't get as much time as maybe you hope to study your own things outside of practice. So I used the fellowship to study material science, and I had a background in engineering. I had done a lot of kind of practice with non-conventional building materials in practice just by chance. So it was something that kind of related to both my background and my experience as an architect. So this fellowship gave me the funds and the time to devote to do some independent research, to reflect on a decade of practice. What I proposed to do was to build a chair made out of carbon fiber and to go to Europe to attend some conferences and to visit some buildings that were related to carbon fiber. I ended up building that chair, and my proposal also was to kind of publish a few articles. I ended up kind of one-upping that. I wrote a book that will be published, that has been published by Burkhauser Architecture, and is actually out as of a couple of days ago. It was a really big transition for me. I left professional practice kind of because of this fellowship, and I'm now teaching at Portland State along with Jeff Schnaubel, and now I started an architecture technology company. So this was a really big springboard for me to kind of use the time and the funds from the fellowship to kind of reflect on that time spent practicing, and that time kind of steeping myself in how the building profession works, to try and do something that I didn't have the time or the kind of capacity to do otherwise. So to finish, I'll end up with a little bit of advice. And I guess one of the things that I would love to see is that, I think that so many of us, mid-career professionals, slightly older architects have, I want everybody to kind of get in touch with what brought them to architecture in the first place, that sometimes you don't get to do after, spending a ton of time in the field. And so to bring that idealism, that curiosity, that engagement with the world that brought everybody to architecture, but that sometimes gets, buried underneath, paying the bills and, working for bosses and doing all those other things. So that would be my advice to all of the people who are looking at this fellowship. I encourage everybody to take advantage of this incredible opportunity that the AFO does on behalf of the community and the profession. So thank you.
Thanks, Quan. My name is Jen Wright, and I was the 2018 fellow. And for my fellowship, I used it to research gender inequality in the profession of architecture, and that included barriers that women face in gaining construction knowledge. So that's the proposal that I started with. And then to Quan's point, throughout the year, just reflecting on that, meeting an amazing broad variety of people in the building industry towards that effort. It was a really transformative time. So I would definitely encourage people to submit their projects and their ideas. For me, I think something that I wanted to point out was that was the fourth year that I had submitted. So perseverance it's a big deal. And I should say that the first 2 years that I submitted, so I submitted, consecutively, and the first 2 years was a different topic or a different project agenda, I guess I would say, than the last 2 years, but they had common ties about community outreach and trying to connect designers with either makers or with just the construction built industry. So in those 4 years, I think what really helped was gaining feedback from AFO and the selection committee in terms of the insight they had on your project. I know for the second to last year, I was told just specifically that having added pieces of my work, right, resume and selections of my past career would have been really helpful in just showcasing kind of a broader look at my career, I guess. And in when I was putting it together, it didn't seem very relevant, right? Like my day job wasn't really relevant to what I was looking to study, so I decided not to. But I think, as Becca was saying, it's really important to think about it as a whole, as a whole package. You're presenting, yourself as a professional, as well as whatever passion project you're bringing to the table. So I think that being said, just a clarity of the submittal and really having an intention of, I guess, where you want to end. I know in the first few submittals that I did, I really wasn't, I was very ambitious. I think that's a good way of saying it. Like I would do the budget. I'm like, oh, I'm sure, you could end up having, I don't know, a design build academy at the end of it, some like brick and mortar. No, but it really does go very quickly. And especially if there's any travel plans, and throughout the year, it's pretty interesting how creating that budget, it definitely keeps you in line with your focus. So that was by the final year that I submitted, I feel like I had a better idea of what was capable of being done within that year's time frame. So I think with that, I'll let Jackie finish off. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Santalucia, and I'm this year's recipient, along with Harley, who's not joining us today. But thank you all for having me, and thank you for joining us. I just want to name that we are in a weird time these days, and doing this is a lot of extra curricular. And this might not be front of mind, but maybe I'm in the Mars colored glasses that we are now, but I feel like that this is an opportunity for a silver lining to really think outside of the box in terms of professionally. So my project is expanding the program Your Street, Your Voice, which is an after-school program for high school students centering BIPOC youth to learn about design as a tool for racial justice. And I appreciate what everyone has said, and I want to echo everything. One thing that I do want to just kind of echo what Erica said in terms of demystifying this is that last year, I only applied a month before it started, before the deadline. And so the deadline's October 18th. So you can definitely start working on this right now. And you don't need to have everything figured out. And it's a chance, it's a practice for you to really kind of formalize your idea to be more than just a goal, but to actually be attention to move forward. I really want to echo the conversation that we've been having about impact. While the application talks about your own individual journey, I think for me, it was really helpful to frame it as the impact on myself in my own profession, the impact on my community, and then the impact on the industry. And looking at Zoom at all those scales, because we operate that way as designers, and it's this constant in and out. I found that helpful to talk about the project a lot. And I want to echo what Jen was talking about in terms of showing yourself as a whole person, not just your professional mask that we always do, but why this matters personally to you.